Hey, this is Kurt from Homebrew. Due to restrictions on gatherings and getting together, we've had to adapt and we've been doing some interviews over Zoom. I've been pre recording Homebrew at home for my week, starting this week. And at the end of last week, I did an interview with Dougal from Dr. Shaw's Unusual Practice. They have a brand new single out. We premiered it on the show, and we thought it'd be really fun to show you a little bit behind the scenes of that interview and kind of leave it in an extended form, not the edited version that went to air. So here it is. You can check out Dr. Shaw's release on their Bandcamp, drshawsunusualpractice.bandcamp.com. And you can always listen back to PBS shows at pbsfm.org.au. Hope you enjoy the interview.
I'm currently sitting in my shed out the back of my share house in Brunswick, which is kind of my lockdown zone at the moment. It's kind of like a converted, like we soundproofed this bad boy a couple of years ago. So it's like a nice little studio setup. I've got everything I could possibly need for the next 6 months. Obviously, just to sustain my brain, not so much, to sustain my body.
Yeah.
Haven't got foods and things out here.
So is that kind of where you're at? You're self-isolating now? Are you going to just bunker down? Is that your plan?
Pretty much. So after Golden Plains, I got a bad flu. And so I kind of have been self-isolating since a couple of days after Golden Plains, because there was that little bit of a scare where they said someone from Golden Plains had the Roni, and and so I kind of, after that, I was like, all right, I'll better self-isolate. So I just kind of stopped working and everything. So it's been, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Time has started to dissipate, the hours and the minutes and the days all jumbling up. But it's, I feel very lucky. I feel like I'm in a very lucky position where I have, I have this space and I can keep myself occupied and keep my creative projects kind of pumping, and I'm trying to get on the Centrelink, so
so you're spending half your time online then, trying to log on?
I did spend the last 3 days staring at the spinning beach ball of doom, but yes.
Well, talking about like creative output though, I mean, you're a relatively new band, but you've put a lot of stuff out really quickly. So you did a tape in early 2019, 12-inch later in the year. The ScoMo Goes to Hawaii EP, and now you've got another EP, this time on 7-inch vinyl. Now you're in lockdown. Like, is this pace going to continue? Is this actually going to allow you to kind of keep creating?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think the only thing like that I guess I'm concerned about is, not concerned, but it's just frustrating. Like we'd kind of decided after the last LP that we were going to do the next one as a band, because I did the first one myself and before the band kind of existed and stuff. And then we started playing together, and I really love playing with Miz and Jake and Jack, and that energy that you get playing with a live, playing with a band as opposed to layering shit up yourself sitting in a studio on your own. It's kind of hard to manufacture that energy. So we kind of had this first part, and then that we were about to go in and record part 2, like volume 2 of this Remember the Future 7-inch thing. We were going to do 2 of those, but we never got around to doing it. So I don't know how long it's going to be until we can do that. But other than that, I've got a bunch of, I've got heaps and heaps of songs that I've been writing that we were kind of planning on getting to with the band, that now potentially I'll just start dropping things, I don't know.
So in between, so obviously you said it started as a project of your own, you were doing everything yourself. Did the way you wrote shift in between? Like when you started working with the band, did the way you write songs or the way the songs come out shift? Was it more collaborative in writing or just in playing?
Not so much as yet. Like, it's still been like, I'll kind of layer up. I've kind of got a bit of a process in a way, in how I write the Dr. Shaw stuff, that's kind of this fluid kind of thing of trying not to overthink things too much, and just kind of laying down the first, I'll kind of have the limitations of the band, obviously, like either having 2 guitars, bass and drums, or like if there's synth, then I can only have one other guitar part, and kind of thinking in the way of that it's going to be performed as a band, and I don't want it to be losing too much or whatever. But yeah, we'd kind of like started to then take these ideas and then work on them as a band, and think about parts more, and maybe think about rearranging things, which was, I think initially I didn't want to do that. I really wanted it to just be as it was, raw, kind of just these ideas as they come out. So it kind of has this feeling that it's really immediate, and it's not like overthought too much and things like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost track of what you asked me.
No, you completely answered the question. I mean, that's the thing.
Okay,
I could imagine like exactly the situation you're in now, and what I imagine the situation like without the isolation necessity originally was. You're in a studio with all those instruments. You've got free reign over what you do. The limitations are only like what you give yourself. Whereas now you have to kind of package that up live. It must just, I can totally imagine that. And I can understand that if you just went crazy again now, you'd have to strip it back live, which might be something you didn't want to do. So that's kind of what I got from that. But I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Is that?
I think, because then there was like, with that, you mentioned that ScoMo Goes to Hawaii kind of mini LP thing, which was just like it was something that I went into that just being like, not really expecting to perform those songs live or whatever. So, and I went into that with some different limitations. Like, I just had a drum machine, a synth, and like a harmonica mic that I was singing into, putting it through like a Space Echo pedal. And so I just was like, this is my limitations for this release. And I just made these kind of more, I guess, like 80s fucking synthy stuff that's not so much, I mean, it's completely different to what we do as a band. So, but I think doing that really opened it up for me in the way of like, not thinking too much about, I guess, opening up those limitations a bit, and not really kind of not worrying too much about that live and the recordings have to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Because then we kind of took a couple of those ScoMo tracks that we've been like jamming on a little bit, and kind of trying to make that into like a rock band setting, and take like the synth lines and put them on the guitars, and like these arpeggiated bass synth stuff, and make that into bass lines or whatever, and like, so, which is fun as well, and then it becomes this whole other thing. So I mean,
sounds fun.
Yeah.
So as you said, you're just on the cusp of releasing Remember the Future Volume 1, which we're going to play a track for the first time today. World premiere, I understand, of Collapse, and it is a killer track. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
You've already released the first single off it, Super Speedy, Zippy Whipper. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes, which is an amazing song as well.
Thanks.
So what for you has changed around the release schedule for this now? Because you did have a launch booked for March 20, which obviously had to be postponed. How do we navigate this now? Like, how does a local musician now, without a live launch kind of booked, what do you do to get your music out?
It's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about, just because we did have like, a bit of a plan for this year of like, that we had all these releases and touring and things that we're working towards, like getting overseas and things like that, that were kind of the cogs were starting to turn or whatever, which is obviously all completely on hold or cancelled, or just like up in the air, I guess, because of the uncertainty. So it's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about, and and I think yeah, I don't know. Like I've been seeing people do these live clips, live streams, which have been super fun. Like I've been, like Zoe Fox has been pumping them out, and I think it's kind of like this new space where you see certain people are embracing it, and it's like it's really cool. I don't know, because initially I saw that isolated thing, which was really cool, and obviously a bit more leaning towards like people who could do it like solo or acoustically and not having these loud things. But then I saw like Research Reactor Corp did this really raw, kind of version of a similar thing, but like up in Sydney. And I mean, I guess people are just kind of figuring out that space and seeing what you can do with it.
Do you think there's a way that Dr. Shaw's could do it? Because I was trying to imagine if you could do a kind of like simulcast, how you would control the audio and video for that would be pretty tricky. But like, is there a way that Dr. Shaw's
I was thinking about that.
Is there, otherwise could you do something solo? Like, is it something you'd think about doing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's like, I can kind of figure it all out, get the machine. Like a lot of the time when I'm writing, it's all drum machines and stuff. Like the first album, I was trying to learn how to play the real drums at the time. It was kind of part of the whole reason of writing those songs. So, whereas like now I'm just I'll just program the drums on the drum machine because I know that Miz is going to do a far better job of it when she gets her hands on the beats. So,
she's one of my favorite drummers.
She's
one of my favorite
she's
drummers
an absolute
ever.
weapon.
Yeah,
I know. Me too. That's what I like. From when I first moved to Melbourne, and like my first band, we played with her old band, Strangers From Now On, and ever since then, she was definitely one of my favorite Melbourne drummers, or my favorite. And so when I got Dr. Shaw's together, I was like, I'm gonna ask my kind of ideal candidates, you know what I mean? Like,
got to start at the top of the list.
My like number one pick.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and she was keen as for it. So yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I think like I live with Jake who plays bass, and he's also, he can do a bit of everything. He's a bit of a multi-talented dude. So, we're already, cross-contaminated with each other, I suppose. So we can hang out in the studio. I did a like Isolation Joy Division cover yesterday, and awesome. I got Jake to lay down the bass for it. But
that's great.
Yeah. It's something that I've been thinking about. We'll definitely get something going.
Yeah. Oh, I look forward to it. So everyone can find you on Facebook and stuff as well. So everyone jump on and follow that so you can see it when it happens. So you mentioned
Insta. I think that's where the live stuff's happening. Insta Live. Get on that.
You mentioned moving to Melbourne. So tell us a little bit about where you came from and what you've done before Dr. Shaw's.
So I grew up in central Queensland, in Rockhampton, or like a small coastal town near there called Emu Park. And I moved to Melbourne in like 2013. I don't know, there's a lot of life in between that, but I don't know, we don't want to go into it on the radio. We'll be here all day. But yeah, I just kind of moved down to start a band, I guess, like with my mate Toby and my partner Liv, and we pretty much within a month or two of being here, we had a band going called Breathe, which went for like 3 or 4 years, which is like fun, like experimental kind of psyche stuff, synthy, like post-punky psyche things. I don't know. And then I ran this DIY space in Brunny for a couple of years called the Brunswick SLSC. Used to put on gigs and stuff, and kind of played in a band called Hot Sludge Fun Day during that time, just frontmanning and running around, causing chaos. And then when that kind of, they sold it off to developers, that space, I kind of found myself with a bunch of time on my hands. So that was when I really got like, I'd been wanting to do a solo thing for a while, and I was about to turn 30. and at the start of last year in March, and I just set myself the task of putting out an solo album before I turned 30. So that was kind of the catalyst, this feeling of like, I'm getting on, I'm, like time's getting away from me here. I need to like take this, do some things with it before I get past it, before the Roni comes and shuts us all down.
Which is only a year ago, can you believe? Anyway, it's nothing like nothing like a deadline to get some art made. Hey,
I know, right? Yeah, you need it. You got to have it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's funny actually. Like that track "Collapse," I wrote about mid last year, like around about when we put out that first album, and it's just like seems to get more and more relevant as time passes.
I was listening to it.
I'm looking back then, and I'm like, that was a walk in the park, man. Like, what were you writing about then? Because shit has gotten hectic since then.
Well, can you tell us a bit about the song since we're about to hear it? Like, let us know a little bit about where it comes from.
So I guess like it was like the inspiration was kind of like this feeling of that there's like kind of this synchronous relationship between like the super rich getting richer and richer, and this increasing bank accounts, whilst we've got these decreasing kind of, or like collapsing global systems that are meant to sustain us, like the environment and education and science and community and things like that felt like all these things are deteriorating, while you see more and more of like this wealth inequality and stuff like that. So
well, let's have a listen to it now for the first time ever. This is Dr. Shaw's Unusual Practice and their brand new single Collapse, which comes out on April 3 and is also on Remember the Future Volume 1, which is available for pre-order now on beautiful pink 7-inch vinyl. Dr. Shaw's Unusual Practice.bandcamp.com. Thanks so much, Dougal, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks for the people for listening to me ramble. Love ya. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Stay inside. You know the drill.